So for my presentation, we are going to be talking about the Congress Plaza Hotel, which is a luxury hotel in downtown Chicago in the Loop community area. I believe this hotel represents the old art style of Beaux Art architecture extremely well. This hotel was designed in two different time periods. The North Tower was designed when the hotel was originally built. And this hotel was built in 1893. However, the second tower of the hotel was actually built in 1907. And that was designed by an architecture firm, although the North Tower was designed by an individual architect. This was Clinton J. Warren, and he actually designed multiple other Chicago hotels, including two of which Al Capone actually set up shop in. Which is funny because his ghost is actually said to haunt the Congress Plaza. This might actually be an interesting subject of further research if Al Capone and, Clinton J. Warren, the architect, had anything to do with each other. This is a very interesting hotel when you actually look at it. It was constructed a long time ago. It was built after the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, which wiped out all of old Chicago. So all the city's architecture that we see today, except for, I believe, the water tower and maybe a couple other buildings, is all built after 1871. That's why they call Chicago the city of architecture. For the Congress Plaza in particular, it was built around the time of the World Fair of 1893. So as you can tell, the foundational stones were laid in 1891, and it took around 2 years to build the hotel, as it was finally completed in 1893. It's a very big hotel. It stands in great contrast to Grant Park, which is right nearby. They hold Lollapalooza there every summer. There's over 1,000 guest rooms. So a great many people can stay at this hotel at any given time. While it has begun to fall into disrepair to an extent, there's a lot of people that still care about this hotel. And in 1945, it was actually purchased by a small group of local Chicagoans who had seen that the hotel was being neglected. It was starting to fall into disrepair, and they spent a lot of money to remodel this place, and that's how it still exists to this day. As I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, this is in the style of Beaux Art, it's a very interesting type of architecture. There's a lot of statues, columns, friezes, cornices, these types of things. And Beaux Art is unique because this is the type of architecture you usually see for like college campuses, libraries, government buildings, these types of things. But no, the Congress Plaza is a hotel, a luxury hotel for that matter, and it takes after these types of buildings. If you were to compare the Congress Plaza to any other type of Beaux Art facade building like that, they would look very similar. The old columns, the symmetry, all the ornate additions to the building. They wanted these buildings to look very classical in their nature, and the Congress Plaza does a very good job at that, especially if you go inside the building. It looks very, very old-fashioned, back to the Middle Ages. There's influences from old Florence in the architecture. It's a very good... how do you put that? Very ornate type of design. As I mentioned earlier, it was built around the time of the 1893 World Fair. And this hotel has actually had a lot of uses throughout history. It was requisitioned by the Army during World War II for use as an Army headquarters. There were a lot of soldiers that must have been in Chicago, and that was the place where they put them up. And that's when it began to fall into disrepair. The military wasn't taking very good care of it, and that's why after World War II, a group of concerned citizens banded together to purchase the hotel in order to renovate it. Another very interesting fact about this hotel is its connection to presidents. There's at least 8 different presidents that stayed at this hotel, including McKinley, Grover Cleveland, Woodrow Wilson, FDR, Taft. Many presidents stayed at this hotel. This hotel held events for these presidents too. So if you're interested in presidents, this is a very good hotel to stay at. It has a lot of historical significance in regards to that, at the very least. And, when presidents would go to Chicago back in the day, they would often stay at this hotel. Although the contemporary building, they might not be wanting to stay there as much. This is a very notoriously haunted building. There's a lot of ghosts that are said to be there. You know, you can look up many reports from guests who have stayed there, and they talk about, like, hearing weird noises at night. There's a room that's closed off that you can't go in. It's a very haunted building, including, again, we tied in the architect who designed this building to Al Capone. Al Capone's ghost is said to live in that building. And it's also, you know, when you look it up, it's been haunted not just by ghosts from the beyond, but by organized labor strife. There was a 10-year strike at this building. They weren't paying their workers enough. They went on strike, and it took them 10 years before they could get to any type of deal. That's a bad sign. But it's still open as of 2024 and receiving guests. And in fact, I'm going to be staying there with some friends in November to check it out for myself. Hopefully we survive the ghosts. And this hotel, it's a very, very nice hotel. From the outside looking in, you might not think it's a luxury hotel, but it is. I mean, there's pool tables, there's laundromat, there's Florentine areas, well, Florentine-influenced areas like the arches and all that. There's luxury ballrooms. It's a very nice place. If you were to look at the Congress Plaza next to all the other buildings on the street, they look very similar. I mean, like, as we discussed, the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, most Chicago architecture was built after then. So, although there's a lot of different artistic trends, the buildings look pretty similar. And the building, it's very interesting. If you take a look at it, it forms a U. There's the North Tower and then the South Tower, and then there's another area in the middle of the building that's just a lot lower. I don't know why it was built this way. I couldn't find an answer to that, but that's a very interesting aspect of this hotel that deserves recognition. And the windows, too. You've got, like, oval-shaped windows. You've got square windows. They have a lot of different window designs, too. So it's another example of the architecture here. They put a lot of effort into it. And this hotel, the two towers of the hotel, fun fact, they were built and designed separately. They were about 10 years apart when they were built and designed, but they look very similar to each other. The architects must have wanted the hotel to look very similar. They didn't want too much of it to look different, although with the windows and all that, it seems that they wanted different parts of the hotel to look different from others, while they wanted the general building to look pretty similar. And the 1893 World Fair was a huge event in Chicago history. One of the 4 stars on the Chicago flag actually represents the World Fair. And so, taking all that into account, they really wanted to build something special, which is what they did with the Congress Plaza. You know, crystal chandeliers, they have big banquet halls, lavish ballrooms, pool tables, stuff like that. It's a very luxurious place. And at the backdrop of the World Fair, this was something that they were interested in building. Another cool thing about this hotel, if you look at it, there's the words Congress Plaza at the top, either that or Congress Hotel, with red letters. This is a very bright contrast to all the other buildings, which have very little color, actually, on them. And then Grant Park, right across the street, like I said, they hold Lollapalooza there. It's in stark contrast to this lack of color on this block. And unlike most other Beaux Art architecture, it's a hotel. It's not a government building. It's not a university, a college campus, a library, any of that. It's a hotel. Yet it looks very similar to all these other architectures. So it's very interesting that they chose to go with this style when they built the Congress Plaza. It's a very great piece of Beaux Art architecture. I think it represents that style very well. And overall, it is a very interesting piece of architecture to look at and analyze in comparison to other architecture in Chicago, other hotels, other architecture from that style, and just on the backdrop of the street altogether. It is a very, very interesting place.